Hello, hi, welcome. I'm welcoming you to today's habit workshop. So the intention behind today is to kind of think through all of the things that we do on both an automatic as well as an intentional basis, and how we can take those things to lighten our load. So things that we're spending a lot more cognitive thinking than we need to do, and how we can free up that space by automating those habits and enlightening our life. So enlightening our life in the sense of freeing up that space in our brain where we're using that energy to do those tasks, automate them so that we can have more space to do the things that we want to do, more critical thinking, more pursuing that ultimate person that we want to become. So with that, the few things that we'll go over today is just kind of the overall definition of what a habit is, thinking about why we do what we do on a day-to-day basis, on a minute-to-minute basis, as well as the power that habits have behind everything that you're doing, the anatomy or the way that habits work, what the whole composition of that from beginning to end, and then the juice, obviously, around how to create and change those habits that we have. And of course, a little bit of tips for success. So I don't want this to come off as something being woo-wooey or really high out there. I want you to learn a little bit as well as walk away with actionable items. So as we start talking through the definition of habits, I want you to think about things that you do on a day-to-day basis, either that you want to be doing or that you want to not be doing anymore. So think about your overall, where there's any pain points, whether it's around stress and anxiety, whether it's around productivity, whether it's around wellness, wherever that area might be, think about some of the things that you're doing in that area. And as we go through the anatomy of the habits and ways to make them easier and more difficult, take that into consideration, write them down. I hope you have a pen and paper, a notepad, or a Word document or something of that sort to kind of go ahead and use that throughout this workshop. So a few different definitions of habit. According to Oxford, a habit is a settled or regular tendency of or practice, especially one that is hard to give up. And according to Webster, a habit is an acquired mode or behavior that has become nearly or completely involuntary. So the similarities between both of those definitions is that it's something that's happened over time. So through repetition of doing it over and over and over again. And both that either you don't even know you're doing it, and because it's so involuntary, it's hard to stop doing. So unfortunately, that also works when you're trying to create one that you have to be it's not involuntary, it's very voluntary. It's a lot of energy in that beginning. But in the bottom there, this is correlation. This is my definition of a habit, in thinking about what correlation is and how everything is correlated to everything else. Everything is relative based on where you are in your life and on your journey. And so from that, I would say that a habit is the key tactic to creating that sustainable change of those and to attain those goals that you're trying to reach, to become that person that you're trying to become, by enhancing your productivity and an enlightened, intentional life. So as I said before, it was enlightening by removing that load, automating some of those things that we're doing that we're spending more time than we need to, and being more intentional with those decisions that we have to becoming closer to that person that we want to be on a day-to-day basis. So examples. Yes, we all know what habits are, but I kind of went a little bit high and a little bit low, some positive, some negative, and there's not good or bad habits. All habits are giving you some sort of reward to a craving that you have. It's a response to a craving that gives you some sort of satisfaction. All of them have a cue. So we're going to go into the anatomy of that next, but I wanted to list some of these things out here so you can think about what they all are. And if you have your pen and paper and you want to do this after this workshop, what I want you to do is take a single day that you would be going through, any day, and write down everything that you're doing. So as I said here, you're checking email first thing, you brush your teeth, you go into a room and you turn on a light. Some of these things are negative, some of these things are positive, some of them don't do anything, right? Turning on or off a light is not making you a better or a worse person. Obviously, maybe turning off the light would make you more energy efficient and conscious, but it's not deterring possibly from whatever your ultimate goal is here. So think about what these are. Think about what might be more what is helping you become the person you want to become, and what's deterring you from that. And that might be something that you want to use going forward in the rest of this time to think about what you might want to change. So all of these things have cues. So for instance, if we took the first example again of turning on and off a light, you walk into a room, the cue is the room is dark. You can't see. So the craving is that you want to see. The response is you turn on the light. The reward is you get to see, right? So this is kind of, as we go through the next little bit here of the anatomy of it, this can apply to all of these things. So for an example of a habit like biting your nails, the cue might be an email comes in, you get a craving of the stress relief, you're stressed out by it. Your response is to bite your nails. It gives you the reward of a slight relief. So here we're trying to remove the stressor. So what we're going to try to figure out is what is that cue? How can we eliminate that cue or make a better cue? What can we do to change that craving if we can? Or the craving must stay the same, but what can we do as a response that will be more productive and not something that you might consider a bad habit or deterring you from the person that you want to become? All right. So looking at why we do what we do. So this kind of circle thing has been brought up by many different people, psychologists. We have Simon Sinek, who has start with why, but this is also a lot of I learned a lot and continue to love Atomic Habits. That also is similar to here. So Simon Sinek, who started with the start with why, he looks at this as the center is your why, the middle circle is your how, and that outer circle is your what. When you're looking at it from a habitual and behavior perspective from Atomic Habits by James Clear, he's looking at it similarly, but more from the center is your identity, the middle circle is your process, and that outer circle is your outcome. And so when you're looking at your goals and what you're trying to achieve, there's two different ways of looking at it. You can either be outcome-based or you can be identity-based. So if you're thinking about, say, a race, you wanted to get a certain time during a race, that's outcome specific. So from that, it's the what you're going to do, what you're going to race, what you're going to run, how often you're going to run. The how is more of the mindset, the principles around that. And the how and the process is really going to be key to those systems of achieving that outcome. But then the why is, say, I want to be a runner, something like that, right? So the identity based is going to be more powerful because it's not just that one time. For an outcome based, you're looking at that one time achieving that one goal. The identity is your beliefs. It's, I believe I'm a runner. So because I'm a runner, I have these systems in place to go and run. And by systems, we just mean the processes. So the systems in place that I wake up every morning at 5:30 a.m., my running clothes are laid out. I run for 1.5 miles. I come back, I have my shake and read the paper. Whatever that is, it's the systems. So you don't rise to the level of your goals, which might be that the race that you're trying to run. You fall to the level of your systems. It's a powerful quote by James Clear. And it's really that if you take the example of cleaning a room, keeping your house clean, you want to have you may have the identity currently that I'm a messy person. Well, if you say you're a messy person, you believe you're a messy person, you're then going to have those processes and systems behind you that are going to support that belief. So you're not creating those systems and processes that make you a cleaner person. And therefore, the outcome is you have a messy house. So thinking about it the other way of if you were outcome based first, you'd clean your room, you'd clean the house. But because those systems were not in place, it continues to get messy again. So you continue to stay a messy person in that sense. It's just kind of different things to think about that. So if you change what you do, you will change your outcomes, which will change that end goal. If you change how you do it, you'll change your processes and systems. But if you change what you believe and you will change your identity. So starting from within, starting with why, with those goals, why are you doing what you're doing? And in that same instance, saying, I am a clean person, I am blah, 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 the rest will follow. If you continue to focus every decision and those intentions with why you're starting this, why these are your goals, the how you're doing it, the mindset, the perception of that, as well as the outcome and the goals that you're doing for that, the actual actions will follow. So as I will say this over and over and over again, every action that you take, every habit, or every subconscious thing that you're doing, every intentional thing that you're doing is bringing you closer to or farther from the person that you want to be. So if we're going back to that same thing about thinking about why, when you are given the option of two different decisions, already decide that you are the person that you want to become and decide as that person. So if I say I want to be a healthy person and I'm given the option of an apple and a piece of cake, your brain's going to obviously go to the piece of cake, right? But answer that as the healthy person. What would a healthy person decide in this situation? If I am sleeping and my alarm clock goes off and my goal is to be a more productive person, what would a more productive person do in this situation? Oh, well, I'm really comfy, but I want to be more productive. Well, the productive person would get up, but if I'm lazy, I'm going to press snooze. So answer that alarm clock as the productive person already before, and you're already getting yourself in the right mindset and starting with that why. Your outcomes are because of that why. So then we say, okay, well, what's the big deal? I got up for one day, and then the next day I stayed asleep for that same instance. Well, 1% changing being 1% better every day has such an unbelievable compounding effect. So here, it's not that big aha moment. It's not when you won the race that's going to be the change of who you are. It's very easy the next day to not do that. But by continuing to do those little actions, taking those little decision points, growing over time is where you're really going to see those results. So here on the bottom, it's just the science of it. If you use it, in your scientific calculator, what happens if you did 1% less every day for 365 days, you're 0.03 times worse off. So you see, it's not as sharp of a decline, but it does affect you. It does continue to affect you negatively. However, if you continue to do one thing better every day, you will be over 37 times better off over the course of a year with that compounding effect that makes all that difference. So just kind of think about that when you think, oh, this decision doesn't matter. It does. And the other thing, and aside from everything you do is bring you closer to or farther from your goals, another thing that I will always say is, I just forgot what I was going to say, is I'm going to go back to it, but we're going to continue to make those 1% better every day. Inertia. How could I forget my favorite word? Inertia. When you start doing those things that are making the right decision, you continue to do those things. When you're productive, you continue to be productive. And then also on the flip side, when you're lazy, when you stop doing those things, it's very easy to be lazy and it's hard to start again. So just keep that in mind, where those little actions really do make the difference on a day-to-day basis, as you can see from this chart. Okay, so breaking it down, the anatomy. We're not getting all scientific into total anatomy, but when you're thinking about your brain, the frontal cortex is where you're making those voluntary actions. So that's where you're deciding to do these different things. The basal ganglia is the part of your brain that is automatic. You go on autopilot. You don't even know you're doing it. You're turning on a light. You're fixing your hair. You're doing something else that you're not even realizing you're doing. All right. So what we're trying to do here is, no matter whether you know it or not, all of those have a cue, a craving, a response, and a reward. This is called the habit loop. And so because our brain is flooded and with different stimulus, different information, it's bombarded with information and different stimuli throughout the day, it's a smart brain. It's a very efficient brain, where it notices these patterns where things are happening over and over again and finds the quickest response. So there's two dots. The law of least effort to get from point A to point B, you're going to go straight across. There could be a better way where it's going around my head, and now I wouldn't cut off my face in this picture, but your brain doesn't know that, right? It's going to go the quickest response. So that doesn't mean that it's always the best. So our goal throughout creating these habits is to shape that into what becomes more automatic, because it's not automatic to begin with. All right, so we'll break it down real quick here. So the cue, this is what triggers the habit. This is where your brain is wired to respond to these cues with some sort of automatic response. You sneeze, you cover your nose, your face, your phone buzzes. The cue is that your phone buzzes. The craving is, oh, the feeling, the want, the desire of something from that initial trigger. In that same instance, the craving is, oh, I wonder what that notification was. The response then is the behavior, the action, or the thought that occurs from that craving. So phone buzzes, craving is I want to know what the notification was. Behavior is I look at my phone. That may happen too many times, right? And that's what we're trying to get away from in this situation. But the reward for that is I got my information. I know what the notification was about. So while it's not a huge reward, it is because it filled the craving that I had of knowing what that was. So the key for creating these sustainable, helpful, impactful habits is that you need to address this loop for both the old habits that you used to have or that you want to get rid of, as well as identifying them for the new behaviors. So from that, we have, oh, I don't have it here yet. So from this here, this is an example from another phenomenal book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I'm not sure how to actually say his name. Sorry, Charles, if that was wrong. But he, instead of having all four of those in the habit loop, just uses the three. Kind of in the middle, the center for him is the why, is you're craving a relief. So here something happens and you want a relief. So the bad habit is you have drinks, you drink and you drink, and the reward is you have a feeling of relief. Instead, here you want to change the routine, change the response, and still get that same reward. So another way of looking at that. So here is, I'm missing an end of a parentheses, I apologize. The smart intention. So now that we've kind of thought about some of the different habits that you may or may not have, throughout some really random ones, think about something that you might want to change. Think about something that you might want to become better at. You might want to automate. You might want to remove from what you're currently doing. The purpose of this being a smart intention, in addition to inertia and everything playing an impact into the person you want to be, the other thing that I'm a big proponent of are these SMART goals. And the SMART goals are about being specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. Basically, as much information as you can throw into your goal and your action plan, the less and less opportunity you have for failing, because you've laid out the whole plan. So just saying, I want to lose weight, not going to help you, because if you lost 1 pound, you technically, based on your goals, met it, but that's not true. So if we get more specific with these habits and these little actions that we're taking, it will continue to compound into becoming closer to whatever that goal might be. So here, write this down and use it for based on whatever habit you're using for this workshop. You're saying, I will blank whatever that habit is that you want to do at blank what time in blank what location. So say it's something about nutrition and I want to have more water. I will drink 8 ounces of water at 6 a.m. in bed. That's before I get out of bed. That's an example. I want to get better at push-ups. I will do 2 push-ups at 12 p.m. at my desk, saying I'm doing that. Well, here, as I noted below, there's a lot more that you can do to make those impactful by tying them, or what we call habit stacking, adding that to something that you're already doing. So maybe that's not specific enough. So if I'm saying I'm going to do a push-up at 12 at my desk, as James Clear had in his thing, well, what does that mean? Is that before, or he didn't have the time? He just said at lunch. Was that before lunch? Is it after lunch? So say it's the instance of, once I close my laptop, I'm going to do that. After I take the dog for a walk, I'm going to read the newspaper. Whatever that is, you're the after and before. So grouping that with something that you're already doing will make it easier for you to do it, because it's already something that's an existing habit. So you're stacking one on top of the other, ultimately getting a nice big old stack. And again, the specificity is really what's going to be key for that. Okay, so now these are the 4 laws Nice spaces in the middle of it. The 4 laws of behavior change is really the key to how you're going to make or break those habits. So there are 4 components. Those components are the visibility, which is assimilated to the cue, the attraction, which is assimilated to the craving, the ease, which goes along with the response, the actual action that you're doing, as well as the satisfaction, which is that reward at the end of that cue. All right. So if we want to make a habit, we want to make it really obvious. We want to make it really visible to us wherever we are. So in terms of our environment, and actually, I'll just go on to the next slide instead of breaking them all down here. So here, move myself again. The visibility. So this is about how obvious can we make it? We want to create that environment around us. If we're trying to make a habit, we want to draw more, as I have paper out here. Put the paper and pencil out on your desk. If you want to read more at night, put the book on your pillow at night. If you want to eat healthy, here is the example that I'm going to use throughout all 4 of these cues, all 4 of these behavior change laws. You want to make it obvious by putting fruits and veggies all over the place where you can see them. So instead of grabbing the cookie, I should have not said replace flowers, I should have said replace cookies. Instead of having cookies out on the counter, you have fruits and veggies, you're more likely to grab that than the cookie. On the opposite side of that spectrum, you want to make the bad thing, when you're trying to break it, invisible. So if there are no cookies out on the counter, if there are no bad snacks in the cabinet, it's very hard to make that decision because it's out of sight, out of mind. There's no visibility. It's an invisible option for you. So the cue of, ooh, I want that bad food isn't there. We've removed the cue for you. So that is really key in helpful for that behavior change. The other way that is really helpful also in terms of visibility and making it obvious is writing down that intention. So writing down that SMART plan, you've made it visible, it's written out. A habit tracker, once you've done that plan, is also going to be key because you can see it. The habit tracker, and I'll get into that at the end, habit tracker satisfies a lot of this behavior change because you can see it. It's a little bit of motivation, a little bit of competition for yourself. You don't want to let yourself down, and a reward of seeing that it's done. But we'll go to that again. Anyways, visibility is about designing that environment around you to help you succeed. All right. The second law here is about attraction. So this is where you kind of play a little bit of games with yourself. What do you want to do? What are you going to do already? And what do you need to do? So here for an unhealthy diet, say there's something that brings me joy every day. At the end of each day, I call a friend. That makes me happy. All right, well, let me associate an apple with that. Let me have an apple right after that. It kind of begins to bring that feeling of happiness with it. Maybe it's after you're playing with your pet, etc. Then on the opposite end of the spectrum for that, as you take the bad food, say you chose the cookie instead of the apple, play the game with yourself of saying it out loud, saying everything that cookie is going to do for you. Oh, this cookie is going to spike my sugar. Oh, then I'm going to have the sugar crash in a little while. Oh, then it might sit on my stomach a little bit longer than I want it to. Oh, and you know what? It might actually in the long term, give me diabetes. Obviously a very exaggerated situation, but by saying those things out loud, it makes it harder for you to say, oh yeah, I should eat that cookie. Well, I've made this apple on the other side more attractive by associating it to something else. So on the same spectrum for that, I can say the same thing as I go to take the apple. I can say all the benefits that it is going to do for me and how it is a healthier decision. So you're associating that with the attractiveness of it. So it's more about the mindset here where you got to play a little bit of games with yourself. Another kind of example that is used for this is like, say you love celebrity gossip and you want to be more active and more physical. You play games with yourself where you can only watch the celebrity gossip. You can only read a celebrity gossip or watch it, however you're intaking it, if you're walking on a treadmill or if you're doing some sort of physical activity. So by that, you're playing the game about what you want to do with what you have to do, and brings it all together into a nice little attractive bundle. All right, that third law here is about the ease of the habit. So the response, how can we make that habit response easy for you to do or hard for you to do if you're trying to break that habit? So it's about that minuscule breakdown. So if you have a goal and it's at that 30,000 foot level, I want you to bring it all the way down to the day to the month, to the day, to the hour, and what can you do within a couple of minutes? So if I use that same example before about push-ups, say I want to be able to accomplish 100 push-ups. That's a lot. That's a lot to say that I'm going to do 100 push-ups. Start with one. You get down on the floor and you do one push-up. And guess what? You get to say that you did it. You check off that habit that you did it. But then you're down there and you do this for a couple of days and you say, you know what? It's not that bad. Let me throw in a second push-up. And that's where that continues to stack, and you're going to be able to do it a little bit easier over time. We go back to the initial example here, that habit of like, we have a current unhealthy diet that we want to break. What can we do to make those decisions to eat healthy easier? So as we said before, the visibility of it, obviously, if it's sitting in the middle of the room for you to choose, that makes it easier. But also, if you've cut out some of the work that goes into it, if you've already pre-portioned the snacks, so you know you're not going to overeat them, then you bring that to the couch so that you're not bringing a whole bag of chips over for you, but say you're starting small and you're just going to go ahead and have a little Ziploc of whatever those chips might be. Start with one thing. Start with one. We are so wired to think that we're able to accomplish more than we can within one day, but that we're able to do less than we can within 1 month. So start with those small things and you'll be able to impactfully expand on that. And I know we're about the instant gratification, but this is about sustainably changing, sustaining that new lifestyle, sustaining that healthy action. And then, of course, to make it difficult, similar to the visibility, we're going to go ahead and lock those foods away. You can't see them. Or you're playing a game with yourself about the ease of it. You can go ahead and have it in a place that, again, I'm giving a very big exaggerated example here. Your friend only has the code to it. Say it's about you can't touch XYZ unless you have to go ask someone for it. So whatever you're doing to make that barrier more difficult, the ease is about removing the friction for the thing you want to do and adding the friction for that thing that you don't want to be doing. So the example that's in a lot of different books is about watching TV. If you don't want to be watching as much TV, it's up to you, the severity of it that you want to do, but take the batteries out of the clicker. It takes a couple of seconds to put back in. It's annoying. Put the clicker in another room. Also annoying. You want to get even more drastic? Put the TV in a closet during the week and you have to pull it back out if you really want to do it, really want to watch it. So there's different levels of severity of ways to make things easier for you as well as harder for you, depending on how much preparation and time you want to input into that. And then lastly, for those behavior change, we're going to end with that satisfaction. The hard part about the satisfaction and the reward is that it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. It's a juxtaposition where the immediate outcome of the good habit of doing the right thing might be negative instantly, whereas the immediate outcome of the bad habit is positive, which is why people have bad habits like smoking. It instantly gives you that relief, that stress relief of whatever you might have, versus knowing the long term of that is I'm going to possibly get lung cancer from all the cigarettes that I'm smoking, right? On the opposite side, if I went to go work out, it's hard in the moment. It may not be as fun at that moment, but in the long term, I have a healthier health and lifestyle. So here I played this one as a little game again for satisfaction, where it's a little extreme, but it can work as well. The real way that satisfaction and reward works is that it's an immediate punishment right then, but at the same severity of whatever the goal is. It doesn't need to be extreme, but it should match the severity of that habit that you're having. So here, for making it unsatisfying, if I do choose that cookie, if I do have a piece of cake, or whatever the goal, the action is that you're trying not to take $1 and throw it away, because you won't want to do that. Or make it have to go to someone that you don't want to give it to. Whatever it is, it's an action that you do not want to take. It's a punishment for what you just did. You are less likely to do it again. On the opposite side, say you had the option of the apple and the cookie, and you chose the apple. Reward yourself. Put that same dollar. So start out that week with $20 in the middle of the table, and you put the $1 in the jar for you put the $1 in the jar for someone else, or the garbage. Don't throw the money away. You know what I mean? Whatever that other place is going to be. And that's for you at the end to reward yourself with, whatever that might be. So going back to the apple and the cook, I don't think the apple and the cookie is the best example for this around the law of least effort, but I didn't mention this in the ease. Our brain naturally is going to go for the easiest option, as I said, from A to B. All right. So what we have to be able to do is wire our brain to go ahead and choose the option that's better for itself. Then coming with that here is the reward that comes with it. So instantly make that gratification for yourself. And coming back to that habit tracker, I think that's the next slide here. It's not. I'm going to go to the habit tracker and come back. The habit tracker is a key method when you don't know what type of satisfaction you might get from something. The habit tracker is one that you can have automatically. It's giving you that satisfaction. That's a daily habit tracker, but we also have weekly. Print it out, have it printed, tape it on your door, tape it on in the bathroom, put it on your mirror, whatever it might be, so you can see it. It's the visibility factor where you can see what you need to do as the cue. It's the motivation when you say, I don't want to leave that today blank. And it's the satisfaction of saying, oh, I did do that thing. The part where it gets a little tricky is don't overcomplicate it. And this is why it's not always the thing that's talked about first with habits, because it does turn some people off. If you are spending more time in your process than you are in the actual thing you're trying to do, it's a little bit not helpful, not as impactful. So that's why sometimes counting macros might not be something that's beneficial, or recording everything that you eat. But doing this for a period of time does make you aware, because as humans, we naturally think that we do these things that sometimes we aren't doing. And this is going to do a couple things: make you aware if you're not doing it, also make you not want to leave it blank, as I noted before, and then give yourself a little reward that you did actually check it off. So I'm going to go back real quick to how long does it take? Because this is, of course, the question, the tale as old as time. How long does it take to form a habit? 21 days, 7 days, XYZ. There is no one answer, because it's not about the length of time. It's about the repetition. It's about the frequency, how often you're putting yourself in those situations to choose the decision that you need to choose. So with that said, if it's a matter of 30 days and you were only given that opportunity 2 times and didn't create the habit, you didn't create the habit. But within those 21 days or 7 days, your brain had the stimuli for 50 times, you might have created the habit. So in the beginning, it's going to require more energy. While your brain doesn't want to use the more energy in the beginning, it's important that you are being intentional. So while these habits will be automated at the end, we have to be intentional at the beginning with what the goal, what the why, what we're trying to achieve, who we're trying to become as we're creating those decisions, making those decisions. Over time, with more repetition, you'll see that you'll eventually get to that habit line. So another thing that stops people from doing this is they're scared to start. Just start. Take the first step. It does not have to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. Practice makes progress. Those habits might slightly change. You might do slightly more, slightly less, take a slightly different form in that as you go on. And that's where it'll become more automatic, more subconscious. And that'll all happen with more practice. All right. So from that, I'm going to leave you with some of my tips. Right? Yes. Some of the tips that I believe will help make you successful in creating these habits and sustaining them. And they're broken out around your identity, your plan, your environment, and your progress. So if there's one thing that I can say, and I'll say it over and over again, it's about keep that why at the center of all that you do. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Be authentic to yourself of what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to do, and act as that person. Act as if you've already gotten whatever goal you were trying to accomplish, and decide as that person. Coming back to that plan, you need to be as specific as you freaking can. Put as much detail in there as you can. Write it down. Do not leave it in your head. Let someone see it, so it keeps you more accountable to what you would like to be doing. And make that plan. How can we make that easy, visible, attractive, and satisfying, as we noted before, for those 4 laws of behavior change? Your environment is so critical to this. It's not just about what's around you. And yes, it is for the terms of the visibility of the things and placing yourself in a place to get set up for success, but also those people that you're around. How are you spending your time? Are those people that you're with are they similar to the person you're trying to become? Because that'll help bring you up. If they're very different, it's going to be a lot more friction. And we're trying to remove the friction of what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve. And then the progress, because there is progress and there is that 30,000 foot level, and we need to break it down into those small, minuscule bits, but don't overthink it. Make it something that's 2 minutes or less for you to move forward. How can you become a little bit better? Do a little bit more. 1 push-up, 2 push-ups, 8 as 1 sip of water, 8 ounces of water, continuing to drink more water, whatever that might be. And that practice makes progress. This is not about perfection. This is about the small, little incremental steps. 1% better, 1% better every day. Decide your tracking method. How are you going to actually manage that progress? Is it going to be on a printed out paper? Are you going to actually track down there? Are you going to work with correlation and have it in your app where you check it off every day, where we put in habits that work for you that you want to say that you did every day? And who is going to help hold you accountable? So who are you giving that plan to so that they know that you're going to do it and that they can check in on you to call you out on your BS if you didn't do it and be proud of you when you did, because both of those things are important. Both of those things, the cheering squad, as well as the, hey, what's going on? A little smack in the tush. Let's go. All right. So what are you doing for all of that? This for me, and I'm hoping for you, are some of the things that'll help to make these habits that you're trying to achieve successful. Alrighty, so I'll round it out real quick just with what Correlation is. So Correlation is a wellness solutions company focused on creating those strategic but tactical plans to help you own your day, your aspirations, and your life. So it's not about, and as I said before, woo-woo or getting you to feel this, that, and the other thing, but really taking that strategy and where you want to be and breaking it down into those steps to get you to that place. So we meet you where you are to get you to where you want to be. All right. So we understand that everyone is at a different place in their life. This doesn't need to be a cookie cutter thing. We also don't need to reinvent the wheel. Some things might be a little more straightforward than others, but there's a whole variety of things that are available to help you get to where you want to be, including wellness and fitness consultations, online fitness programs to do anywhere, which includes that habit tracking. We have habit coaching and custom program design. There's group challenges, corporate wellness programs, and then more workshops and info sessions similar to something like this that can be done to help give extra information. Other courses coming as well. So this is for individuals, groups, and small business. So that's my only little pitch about what Correlation is. And